Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game. Donating at least $100,000 to Irish football via England goals this summer. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Very good morning and you're welcome along to yet another episode of the Euro 2020 show here on Off the Ball. Shane Hannon with you for the duration of the entire European Championships. Every single weekday when there is a game on, we will be live in all of the usual places. So we're live right now on the OTB SPORTS radio station. That's on the OTB SPORTS app, which you can download for free in the App Store or indeed in the Play Store. We're also live as well, as usual, on stream, youtube.com/Off the Ball, on Facebook as well, and indeed on the Twitter and Periscope at Off the Ball. And our OTB Sports Euro 2020 show is live with Paddy Power's Save Our Game, donating €10,000 to Irish football every time England score a goal at the Euros. So that means Raheem Sterling's goal at the weekend against Croatia put €10,000 in the kitty so far for Irish football. Not bad at all. Over the coming weeks, I'll be joined by regular guests Eamon Dunphy and Damien Delaney. Plenty of Euros legends and football insiders as well as we preview the upcoming matches every single day. The former West Ham, Cardiff City and Wales international Danny Gabbidon will be with us very shortly this morning. And that's ahead of Wales, of course, taking on Turkey a little bit later on today. That's 5 o'clock in Baku in Azerbaijan, that game. I'll also be joined every day by a different member of Team Off the Ball. Today it's time to welcome to the show John Duggan. John, good morning.
Shane, how are you?
Keeping well, John, keeping well. You're enjoying this tournament so far. I heard you on OTB AM with Jaron Owen this morning. And any, I guess, surprises? Any teams really impressing you to date?
Italy are probably the biggest surprise for a team to impress me, because when I think about Italy, I don't think of any stars. I think of Pirlo or Totti or Del Piero. I'm thinking of players that are not lighting up the world in Champions League finals at the moment. But they were very impressive, and Roberto Martini has done great jobs at clubs with Inter Milan and with Manchester City, and they look greater than the sum of their parts. When they had 8 shots on target to Turkey's none the other night, they just completely suffocated them in a footballing sense. France last night, I thought, were playing within themselves. I think France have another gear. They started slowly at the World Cup in 2018, and to me, they look the most exciting team I've seen. So I've been impressed by France, I've been impressed by Italy. I didn't see the Belgium game, but obviously from the result, it looked like a comprehensive victory. Underachievers, I didn't think the Dutch were that solid at the back against Ukraine. Spain, to me, lacked that killer instinct in front of goal based on what I saw against Sweden. And England, they got the job done against Croatia. I think they will improve in the tournament. It was more about Calvin Phillips than Harry Kane. So look, I've enjoyed it so far. The thing about it is, you've got 24 teams into 16, so there's not going to be that many absolute shocks in the group stage. But I do think games last night were important.
Like you spoke about England earlier on OTB AM, and the fact that, you know, if they top this group, which is quite likely, they're going to face second place in that group of death, Group F, so one of Portugal, Germany or France. Like, I know that means then if they do top their group, at least they have their home Wembley last 16 tie, but at the same time, that's not an easy route to major progression throughout this tournament. They, in some ways, might be better off coming second in that group, although you can't really plan for that.
No, you can't, and in a way, that's a dangerous thing to do as well, because you want to have momentum of winning games. And if you start trying to mess around with permutations, I think it's a very difficult thing for a country or any football team to do. I remember the Belgium-England game of the World Cup was complete dead rubber. Belgium won it. England got Colombia out of it. England actually got an easier draw out of it through to the World Cup semi-final. So I don't think you can start planning and looking at permutations for this. Look, England are going to have to beat a France or a Portugal or a Germany to win this thing.
Yeah.
So you might as well just face it. You might as well just be brave about it and say, what we're going to do is going to back ourselves in this. We got enough talent in this team. We'll be at home. Let's back ourselves. There'll be fans there, because if you could actually, sometimes you have finals. We're talking about France and Germany last night. For me, in a way, the 2014 World Cup, the final was in the quarter-final when France played Germany, and it was a very tight game, and Germany won 1-0, and Mats Hummels scored the goal. It was the last time Germany beat France, and Mats Hummels last night scored the own goal that gave France the victory. But to me, you could see the thread, because Germany were peaking then and France were beginning to peak. 2016 runners-up, 2018 World Cup winners. So therefore, I think that England sometimes you need to just take it. You can't be waiting for easy routes to a final. You got to take sometimes a big game. We saw France and Argentina at the last World Cup in the last 16.
What about the Germans then? Because, I mean, myself and Stephen Doyle spoke with Uli Hesse on the show yesterday, and they've been in disarray, might be a strong word, but at the same time, you know, exited the group stage of the 2018 World Cup in Russia. They lost that game 6-0 to Spain, which put a bit of pressure on Jogi Löw, and of course they lost to North Macedonia as well. And yet, last night, they weren't fantastic, didn't create many openings, but at the same time, they only lost 1-0 to a French team that everyone is heralding as the pre-tournament favourites. So, are Germany out of this yet? As you mentioned, only 8 teams don't get through to the last 16. So if Germany can even squeeze a second or a third in this group, get a decent last 16 tie, all of a sudden we're saying, okay, hold on, Germany are into the last 8, last 4. You can't really rule them out.
You can't rule them out, but on the basis of what we've seen, are there better teams in the competition than them? Probably. I think football goes in cycles. Germany have had a very long cycle from, say, the 2006 World Cup with Klinsmann, which got right up to 2014, where they peaked and they won that World Cup. They beat France, Brazil and Argentina to win that World Cup. 2016, they lost in the semi-final to France in the Euros. 2018, they had a shock, a complete shock. Since 1938, it had never happened that they failed to get out of the group stage of the World Cup. Jogi Löw should have gone then. Bizarrely, they gave him a contract before the World Cup. Muller and Hummels went, and now they're back. What does that say about the cohesion within the squad? But when you have a player like Kai Havertz who just won a Champions League with Chelsea, and you got Serge Gnabry, who did miss a simple enough chance last night, but he'd been playing really well for Bayern Munich. You've got players like Timo Werner who came on. I know he's much maligned at times, but these are younger players. That Rudiger had a great Champions League final. The quality players, still got quality players. Maybe Kroos is not the player he was in 2014, but Gundogan has had a great season. When you're looking at the team sheet, you're thinking this is still a team full of quality players. The issues of being the flop of the World Cup. Jogi Löw maybe outstaying his welcome. The need of a fresh manager and a fresh approach. Someone like Hansi Flick is going to come in after these Euros, who's won a Champions League in recent times. So I think Germany are just up, like over the hill of the cycle, but it doesn't mean they're bad players.
Yeah, it was Mats Hummels, the man you mentioned there, his own goal that gave France that win last night from the Lucas Hernandez cross after 20 minutes. But who impressed you in that game? Paul Pogba was fairly impressive, and his pass that led to the goal was just, I guess, what you expect from Paul Pogba in big games for France especially. Manchester United fans at times might be frustrated seeing what he can do at international level, albeit he has some quality games at club level as well. But he was very impressive last night, John. He was. I think the 3 players that impressed me were, because you could talk about Conte, because we think we do every second day, don't we, and how good he is. But I think Pogba, Varane and Mbappe were the 3 players that stood out to me. Defensively, I thought France were solid. I thought Pogba kind of just highlighted to me again where he really feels comfortable with Deschamps in this French setup. There was a movie they did after the World Cup, which is kind of a fly in the wall thing about their journey in Russia. And Pogba was a real leader in the dressing room. Now, maybe these are the things in the movie that were just shown. Sometimes it isn't a full reflection of what actually happened, because Lloris in the Tottenham Amazon documentary was very vocal, where I didn't see Lloris being vocal at all in the France World Cup film. But Pogba was really, really brilliant in that World Cup film. He was such a leader. He was he was doing most of the speeches. He was really encouraging his teammates. I can imagine he was doing that again at half-time last night, even though he'd been bitten in the back or nibbled in the back by Rudiger. Something he seems to be quite relaxed about, Pogba. Whether UEFA will be as relaxed remains to be seen. But whatever way it's ego or whether he just seems to gel well with them, he's able to produce his best for his country. He did it at the World Cup, and he did that last night again. And I don't know what the deal is at the club level. I've always felt that Pogba doesn't really want to be at Old Trafford and Man United, but there are no big super clubs, because a lot of them are broke, coming in to give him that platform at Real Madrid or at another place. And that's possibly why he's been frustrated at times. And for whatever reason with France, when you have someone like Conte beside you, it does make it easier to be the man and have that kind of, I suppose, that freedom to play the way he did last night. Varane, as I said, and Mbappe, to me, Mbappe is my favourite player. He's the best player in the world for me. I just love the fact that he's got such electric pace. Like that goal, which was disallowed, was actually in the net before anybody'd almost thought about, okay, what's he going to do with the move here? It's in the net. And the pace and the skill he has is just... That's why France are going to be so hard to beat in this competition, because they have everything, really. They've got a very good defence. They've got a brilliant midfield in Conte, Pogba. And I think that they also have that X factor of like someone like Benzema, who's not in any way, it seems, detracted from or been a negative presence so far for this French team. He's actually probably been an addition. Yeah, and it's a fair point you make about the no kinks in the armour. Like, even some people, I guess, pointed towards Hugo Lloris and his lack of form for Spurs, but at the same time, like Pogba, he probably steps up to the mark when it comes to the international stage, and that French strength and depth is just
the kink might be their conservatism.
Yeah,
that might be the kink in Deschamps, because in France in 2000 when they won the World Cup, were a better, more expressive team than the 1998 team, from Jacquet's team to Lemaire's team. And that's when we saw peak Zidane. We saw France win a title with flair. Now, Italy frustrated them in the final, and they eventually won the golden goal. That's why I'm fascinated with Italy, who play Switzerland tonight, because Italy are the other team that I've really picked out of the opening games to be something that they're going to be a difficult team to break down. Difficult team to break down. I would, if I was looking at Italy versus Germany, I would see, or Italy versus Portugal even at the moment, I would see more cohesion and more of a 1-11 flow in the Italian team that I've seen so far.
You mentioned the Portugal team there, and I guess briefly we should touch on them. That game in Budapest last night, Hungary 0, Portugal 3. And I guess there's, even to say we're running out of superlatives to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo would be a cliche in itself, but I mean, he's closing in on, he breaks records left, right and centre. Is it 106 international goals?
That's right, yeah.
When you think Robbie Keane had something in the late 60s with 68, 69 goals for Ireland, I mean, Ronaldo's record is just extraordinary, and he's got another couple here. He's probably hoping to get himself a golden boot and retain that Euro 2016 crown that they won so well. But can you see this Portugal team going all the way? I know Stephen Doyle, for example, yesterday really fancies them for this tournament.
Well, Hungary frustrated them. That's the first thing. I don't know about the shape where their midfield and their attacking players. I don't know if Danilo and William Carvalho are going to be the proper holding link between, say, their defence, which you have Ruben Dias in now, and the attacking players. I remember it was a Jota didn't square for Ronaldo early on, and Ronaldo was absolutely losing the plot. I don't know if that's a good thing, that kind of preening that Ronaldo does at times. How would Jota feel about that in the dressing room? Maybe they just forget about it after seconds. Maybe that's fine. But I just felt that it took him a long time to... I didn't see the fluidity sometimes in their moves going forward to break down Hungary. Now, maybe it wasn't easy. The 61,000 fans is another thing to point out about the game in the Puskás Arena in Budapest yesterday. So I'd be fascinated to see the Portugal-Germany game.
Yes.
Like, that will really tell me a lot about where both these teams are. But of the talent on the pitch, Bruno Fernandes, Diogo Jota, Ronaldo himself, now 11 goals in Euros in history. That's 2 more than Platini now. 106, as you say, three behind Iran's Ali Dai. Surely he will probably surpass that against us when we played them in the World Cup qualifiers.
Written in the stars.
Yeah, like Ronaldo carried the team to a degree, and they were quite functional, and they didn't really win many matches until they beat Wales in the semis in Euro 2016, and then they shocked France in the final. I think they're actually a better team now with better players. It's just the gel of that. But I think it's early possibly to say. Sometimes you just need to see a few matches before you can make a judgment. Like we all thought, Turkey beat dark horses, but they were very poor. The Scots had chances against the Czech Republic, but they ultimately lost. How will teams react to their setbacks? Portugal got the job done. And once again, I think a lot of people have to think about the fact that a lot of these countries are going away from home. Like Wales are playing 2 games in Baku, one of which is almost like a home game for Turkey today in Azerbaijan. That might not be easy, and I think that's why England, as you mentioned earlier, will have a good chance at Wembley.
I've had a rolling all-stars / team of the tournament across this Euros show, John. I picked a team before the tournament, but this is the team that I went with up to yesterday. So Vaclav of the Czech Republic in goals for the benefit of our podcast listeners. Dumfries for the Netherlands in the back four with Skriniar Slovakia, Giorgio Chiellini for Italy and Thomas Meunier for Belgium. The midfield four then was Yarmolenko for Ukraine. What a goal he scored against the Dutch. Gini Wijnaldum, who plays for the Netherlands. Calvin Phillips for England and Berardi for Italy, and then up top I had Lukaku alongside the Swiss striker Breel Mbolo. I have made 2 changes, John, today.
Oh, okay.
So in come Pogba in place of Calvin Phillips, and in comes Ronaldo in place of Breel Mbolo. So this team all of a sudden has a bit of star power. What do you make of that lineup? It's not
Where's
bad.
Mbappe?
I didn't put Mbappe in yet, but I know as as France progress,
He's waiting to go in.
He's waiting. See, I've gone with the 4-4-2 for the purposes of the graphic, so I don't know who to take out, but Mbappe will be in this team by the end of the tournament, no doubt. I think France are going to go on to win it, so he'll make an appearance at some point. It's not a bad team, I think you'll agree.
No, it's not, and I think it's important to have someone like Skriniar in there, because Slovakia were great the other day. You can't be afraid in these tournaments. Think about Wales, and we talk about Wales in a moment. Wales weren't afraid in 2016. They had a go. Slovakia had a go against Poland. Look, they were probably fortunate with the sending off, but you have to have a go. You've got to be on the front foot. That's what Greece were like in 2004 in the Euros. And there can't be any fear. If you go into a tournament with fear and with trepidation and like getting everybody behind the ball, you're going to be a sitting duck. And I think that's what Wales need to be today to a degree against Turkey. They need to be on the front foot.
Yeah, we'll get to Wales and Danny Gabbidon very, very shortly. A reminder, our OTB Sports Euro 2020 show is live with Paddy Power's Save Our Game, donating €10,000 to Irish football for every goal England scored at the Euros. So Raheem Sterling's goal at the weekend means that's 10 grand in the bank. 3 big games for you today as well in the European Championships. I want to bring you a quick look now at some of the Paddy Power markets for those games today. Have a look.
3 more Euro 2020 matches this Wednesday. Paddy Power's football trader Emmett O'Keefe joins me with a little bet for the day. 3 smashing matches to look forward to, Emmett.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but in terms of betting proposition, I'm looking towards 2 kind of veteran target men who dominate the goal scoring for both their respective teams. Firstly, Artem Zhuba of Russia, who are playing Finland. Zhuba is kind of anyone who's seen him play is very much in the kind of old school target man mold, but has a superb goal scoring record for both Zenit St. Petersburg and Russia. And I think he continued that in their recent World Cup qualifiers in March, scoring 3 goals in 3 matches. I think Zhuba looks a solid bet both to score first and to score any time against the Finns. But I think to make this more attractive price, we're going to double him up with Burak Yilmaz of Turkey, who are playing Wales. You could Yilmaz again has a similar profile, very much in the veteran striker mold, in his mid-30s, but still hugely effective. He was the Lille's main player in firing them to French Ligue 1 glory. And he's an excellent record for Turkey and scored 4 goals in 3 games in their World Cup qualifiers in March. I think again he looks an attractive bet to score first tier 4-1 and to score any time at 7-4. So if you double up Yilmaz and Zhuba to score any time, your price will be around 4-1 and 9-2. And if you double up Zhuba and Yilmaz to score first, if you're feeling brave, it'll be a price in and around 16-1.
Yeah, I always like those bets, the way you can put a little on to win a lot. As always, it's a pleasure. Thanks a million, Emmett.
Yeah, one of those games discussed there was, of course, Wales' game against Turkey, 5 o'clock in Baku for that one. Delighted to say now, Danny Gabbidon, the former West Ham, Cardiff City and Wales international defender, joins us on the line this morning. Morning, Danny.
Good morning, chaps. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Danny.
Keeping well, Danny, keeping well. Thanks for taking the call. I guess before we get to the Welsh, Danny, we might start with that game last night, France and Germany. And a decent performance by the French, and probably the team a lot of people expected to go on and win this tournament, up there with the English potentially. But were you impressed by the display they put on? Myself and John here were talking about Kante, Pogba, Varane, Mbappe. They all put in decent displays last night.
Yeah, they did. I think it was the game, wasn't it, that everyone's kind of been looking forward to, that kind of group of death. And I thought France were almost won the game in with a couple of gears to spare, really, as well. You know, kind of got the goal, got their nose in front, and I thought kind of managed the game really well. Then kind of second half sat a little bit deeper, defended very well, and of course they can do that. You know, with the pace of kind of Mbappe up top, they can sit a bit deeper and play on the counter attack, and probably were a little bit unlucky not to get the second goal and make the result a little bit more comfortable. But I mean, they got so many options, and even the players that they've kind of left out of the squad altogether, you know, full of quality, and you would expect them to be thereabouts. But I thought Germany played okay as well, to be fair. I think, you know, you can see their issues. Obviously, defensively, it's going to be a bit of a problem for them in the tournament, but they've got some great players going forward still. And, you know, the options that Love was able to bring on off the bench, you know, Sane and Werner as well. So we shouldn't never rule the Germans out as well. So I thought it was a high-level game, actually. It was a high-level game, very good.
We have the advantage now, I guess, of having witnessed all the teams in the Euros, so we can kind of make predictions with a bit more certainty, I guess, in terms of who's impressed, who hasn't impressed. But who have you been impressed with, particularly so far in the tournament? Has your prediction pre-tournament changed thus far?
Well, I was just listening to you chaps there, and you know, speaking about Portugal and maybe being a favourite. They were my pick as well going into the tournament. Obviously, France, you know, as we said, are very, very strong. But, you know, Portugal, obviously, the winners from 2016. As you said, I think their squad has actually got better since then. And for me, they've kind of got that organisation defensively. They've got that kind of grinding nature about them as well. Even though they've got very good players, I feel they're able to kind of grind results out as well. So I was impressed with how they kind of finished the game, 0-0 for a long time, and Ronaldo pops up with a couple of goals. France have looked good. Obviously, the Dutch got a good win. I thought that was a really entertaining game as well against the Ukraine. So, I don't think you can look. I don't want to talk about England being a Welshman, but England, I thought, played really well against Croatia. They're going to feel good about, going deep in the tournament, particularly the home advantage that they have as well. So, I think probably, France, England, the Portugal result, they're probably the teams that have impressed me the most so far.
If we do touch on your own country, then Wales, I guess that the result against Switzerland was a pretty decent result against what is a fairly quality Swiss side as well. Breland Bolo, particularly danger man for Switzerland up top, but not a bad result. And I guess there's been not a changing of the guard since 2016, but a few young faces come into this Welsh team. A new man in charge as well, of course, in Rob Page. So, have you been impressed with their display against the Swiss? And do you think they can mount some sort of a 2016 like run in this tournament?
If I'm being honest, chaps, I don't think we're going to be able to do what that team did in Euro 2016. I don't feel this team is as good, is as experienced. It doesn't have as many kind of players playing at the top level, kind of Premier League players in this squad. But they've done fantastically well. I think Wales were still in a bit of a transitional period. So I think for a new manager to come in after what Chris Coleman did, try and change the style of play, try and transition the squad. A lot of young players coming into the squad, and not just coming into the squad, actually, being given opportunities to play as well in the starting 11. I think to do all that and then still kind of qualify for a major tournament, I think you have to give the management team and a lot of those young players a lot of credit, considering the likes of Aaron Ramsey, Gareth Bale, Joe Allen, these players have not been able to get them on the pitch altogether for any consistency, really. So a lot of these young players have had to come in, step up and perform, and they have, and they've played a massive part in getting Wales to where they are now. So I think, for Wales to kind of get out of this group, I think would be a major achievement. And not a bad result first game. I don't think we played well, to be honest with you. But that's kind of been Wales the last year or so. We haven't really played brilliantly. There hasn't been a lot of outstanding performances, but they found a way of winning games. So they've been defensively solid, organised, that kind of team spirit, which has kind of continued from that kind of Euro 2016 squad is still there. And we've been finding a way of kind of getting results. Now, in a major tournament, when you're up against, top-level teams, whether that's going to be enough to progress Wales to a semi-final, I'm not so sure. But something to build on from that first game, but they'll have to play a lot better this afternoon against Turkey if they want to get anything from that.
We all have our crosses to bear, Danny, and one of mine is a Spurs fan.
Oh dear me.
Gareth Bale, it was a struggle this season for Spurs and for Gareth, both of them really, and not the amazing player that he was a few years ago when they went to Real and was such a key player for them in Champions League finals and that. Can he find something? Can he get something out of his back catalogue of brilliance and perform today against Turkey, do you think?
I certainly hope so, because the quality is still there, as you say. I think he showed when he was able to play for Tottenham this season, when he's not the same player that he was, of course he isn't, but you stick him in front of goal and he still knows where the goal is. He's still a fantastic finisher, still capable of picking those passes out. But I just think you look at how Wales played in that first game against Switzerland, and they were very passive, very deep as a team, quite negative, trying to be difficult to break down. And when they won possession back, then there wasn't really an outball, and maybe prime Gareth Bale, in his first kind of spell at Tottenham, you could play that way, and he would get you up the pitch. He'd take the whole team on and stick it in the back of the net. But he's not that kind of player anymore. He's had to kind of adapt his game due to injuries. That kind of blistering pace that he used to have is not quite there now. So I think the team needs to play a little bit different in this game to get the best out of him. So I'd like to see Wales pressing a bit higher up the pitch, trying to win the ball a bit higher up the pitch, similar to what Italy did to Turkey, not allowing them to play out. And then if you can get Gareth Bale around the 18-yard box in those dangerous areas, then, he's still capable of doing amazing things, but he's not going to be that guy from 5-6 years ago who can pick the ball up in his own half and, get the team up the field himself or score a brilliant kind of individual goal. He doesn't really have that in his legs anymore. So I feel the team has to adapt and change a little bit to get the best out of him. And Aaron Ramsey similar. So, look, we're going to need to see more from our key players going into this game because they didn't see nowhere near enough of the ball against Switzerland. And a lot of that was down to, as I say, tactically, the team sitting a little bit too deep. And then when they won the ball back, it was a long ball into Kiefer Moore and he was isolated, or they just couldn't get, our key players on the ball enough high up the pitch. So I think a lot of it will be down to tactically and how we set up our possession. We need to be a lot more positive.
He looked like the danger man, Kiefer Moore. He had a chance in the first half and then a brilliant goal to equalise. Maybe they try, as you say, get him in the game a bit more. And Turkey were so deep against Italy, maybe there's an opportunity for that because Turkey, their confidence has been shaken by that result. Yeah,
and they have to come out, don't they? They have to come out and play a different way to what they did against Italy, and hopefully that will suit Wales. Hopefully there will be more gaps for Wales to play. I think we have struggled over the last year when we play against teams that sit back and nullify space because we do have players that, the likes of Daniel James, we mentioned Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, they liked space to kind of run into. And we have struggled over the last year breaking teams down that kind of sit quite deep and camped in front of their own goal. So, Kiefer Moore he's the reason really for me that Wales are at this tournament because, halfway through qualifying, tactically what Ryan Giggs was trying to do wasn't working. We were trying to play expansive football. We weren't creating chances, weren't scoring enough goals. And, Kiefer Moore came into the team and tactically Wales changed. We went a bit more direct. We went back to front. We started to counter-attack a bit more. And he's one of those players that makes the attacking players around him play better as well because, when the ball goes into him, it's going to stick. He runs the channels well. He wins flick-ons. And, I think that connection between him and Daniel James, he's got the best out of him as well because, he's been able to play coast to him or make runs off him, make runs in behind him. And, that they've had a really good connection with him crossing balls from wide and trying to pick him out in the box. So he just adds a different dimension to Wales when they're in possession. They're able to go back to front and counter-attack a bit better when he's in the team. And there's been a lot of talk, going into that first game about whether he was going to start. But for me, he should be one of the first names on the team sheet because I think we look better attacking-wise when he is in the team. So, Wales are going to have to, they need a big game from him again this afternoon. And certainly the service into him will have to be a lot better than what it was in the first game. I know he scored a great goal, but he was a little bit isolated and he found it difficult at times with the balls that were going up to him. And you'll need the likes of Bale and Ramsey getting in and around him a little bit more and supporting him much better than what we saw in that first game.
Danny, your former international teammate John Hartson was speaking on our morning show this morning, OTB AM, and he spoke about that 2016 group stage and how Wales seem to do well when it's a must-win game. If I recall 2016 correctly, it was the win over Slovakia, losing to England, and then that game against Russia in the third group game where Wales were so impressive and needed the result and got it. Today kind of has that similar feel to it. I know there's the game against Italy to come, but if you maybe rudely assume that they won't pick up anything against the Italians, today really is a must-win because you need to get to 4 points. If they draw today's game, for example, 2 points potentially won't be enough to even get a third-place spot, you would imagine. So, do you think Wales are well primed for a must-win game like today seems to be?
Yeah, I think, I agree totally there with Hartz and what he said in relation to that kind of 2016 team, but there's been a lot of kind of harping back to 2016, and it's not 2016 anymore. It's a very different team, different manager, different way of playing, and of course you look back and you try and gain confidence from those kind of positive kind of experiences. But yeah, I think we've heard Robert Page come out and say, trying to play the game down a little bit, saying, look, there's still another game after this. It's not a must-win game, but I'm sure in the dressing room he's saying something different to the players, and this is a great opportunity with Turkey off the back of a bad loss against Italy to get a win, get to 4 points, and you would feel that would probably be enough to see Wales through there. And I think with the Italy games to come, you do not want to be going into that last game needing a result against an Italian side that are in fantastic form at the minute under Roberto Mancini. So I think Wales have to target this game. They need to look at the things that they didn't do as well in the first game. They didn't really start playing until they were a goal behind against Switzerland. They need to be a lot more positive. And, you look back to 2016, and that result against England really was the catalyst for the Russia result, because they were quite negative in that England game. They showed England a lot of respect and went 1-0 up and didn't really know how to manage the game. And actually losing that game was the best thing that could have happened for that group of players, because they then said, look, if we're going to go out the tournament, we go out playing our way. We respect the opposition, but we don't fear them, and we go out kind of playing our way of football, and that's when you got that result against Russia, which was an outstanding performance. So I feel Wales maybe need to do a similar thing going into this afternoon's game. Look, respect the opposition, but let's impose ourselves on the opposition. Let's play our way, and if it's not good enough, it's not good enough. But let's not be as passive. Let's not be as negative as we were in the first game against Switzerland. Let's really go for the game and try and get the 3 points.
I just wanted to ask you, Danny, about Robert Page. I know your career has kind of crossed paths at Cardiff City, and if I'm right in saying yourself and James Collins kind of maybe kept him out of the team at one point in that Cardiff defence, and before you both got your move to West Ham, of course. But have you been impressed with how he's done? Because he's kind of been parachuted into this role. I know he'll know the likes of Joe Rodon and David Brooks from his under-21 spell, but this is a big ask for someone to be asked to take over their country and immediately head into a major international tournament. So how impressed have you been with how he's handled that responsibility?
Yeah, I bump into Pagey quite a lot, actually, and he always reminds me that I ended his international and club career. So, but no, I mean, I think he's done an excellent job. Look, he has experience behind him, obviously. He has been a manager at a couple of clubs, Northampton, Port Vale, experiences that probably didn't go as well as he would have liked, but I think he took a lot of learning from that. I've seen a lot of the work that he's done in the younger age groups with Wales, obviously at under 21 level. A lot of the players that are now in the senior squad have kind of been groomed and nurtured by him. And I think he's done an excellent job. He's come in a really difficult situation. I think one of the positive things that he's done, he hasn't tried to change too much. I think the team were starting to pick up results, and he's been very kind of wary not to change too much. Of course, you have to try and put your own kind of stamp on things, but he's tried to keep that kind of continuity going. And look, Page, he's just a very kind of honest guy. What you saw from him as a player, I think he's very similar as a manager, very honest, very straight down the line. And that's what kind of players want. I think the lads all enjoy kind of working under him. I think the defensive record since he's kind of come into the Wales setup, working under Ryan Giggs, has been excellent. No coincidence. Wales have started to keep a lot of clean sheets since he's got involved in the setup, and now he's been given out a kind of opportunity to take the reins himself. And I think he's doing an excellent job. I think those first 2 or 3 games that he was given, I think it was the USA game. There's a couple of friendlies there, and it was almost like an audition really for the job for going into the Euros, and he did really well. He picked up results. I think the camp was happy, the lads were happy working under him, and this is now the ultimate test for him. Playing against elite level teams in a major tournament. This is a real test now of his credentials, of his tactical nous, his kind of man management. And as I said, he'll be pleased that he was able to get something from that first game, but he'll also be aware that the team probably didn't play nowhere near as good as they can. So I'll be interested to see, what he does tactically, what he does personnel-wise kind of going into this game. But he's done a great job up until now.
Do you know many people have gone out to Baku in Azerbaijan? They're peas in a pod with Turkey, Danny. It'll be almost like a home game for Turkey with 30,000 at the Olympic Stadium tonight. President Erdogan will be there. Not been easy to go out to Azerbaijan to play Euros matches.
No, I've been to Azerbaijan a couple of times myself as a Wales player, and it's always difficult. It's always a bit of a hostile atmosphere. Obviously, Turkey have that advantage there, where they really are going to dwarf the kind of the Welsh support. And for me, the Euros in general, I don't really understand. I think it's very unfair. You can have England playing a most of their games at Wembley. Obviously, Scotland have got a couple of games at Hampden. Now, how you can give teams kind of home advantage in a major tournament for me is, that's probably another argument. But yeah, I mean, Turkey are going to hope that they can get an advantage and can benefit from having more kind of fans in the stadium. That's something that Wales players are going to have to deal with now, that kind of hostile atmosphere. It's something that the players won't have been used to very much over the last 18 months, playing in front of no fans. So, you hope that the players can adapt to that fairly quickly. And hearing kind of Gareth Bale speak, saying, look, as players, we're used to playing in front of kind of hostile crowds and stuff like that. Hopefully we can kind of use that to our advantage. We can quieten the crowd, and hopefully we can use that to kind of add fuel to our fire, really. So it is an added kind of thing to look at. I think something Wales will have to be aware of. They'll have to manage the atmosphere as well. But I'm sure the Wales support that are there will be in good voice as well, the Red Wall. And hopefully they can help to cheer this Wales team on as well to what will be very, really important 3 points.
I was offered a ticket for the game against Portugal in 2016, Danny, and I took it. And I went to Lyon for that semi-final, and it was just that's the "Don't Take Me Home," I think is the song.
Yeah.
I think it's to Billy Ray Cyrus or something like that. Were you on the travels? Were you a fan because you retired by then?
Yeah, I was there actually. Yeah, I was kind of half fan, half pundit. So I was working for a radio station, but obviously I also had the opportunity to almost be a fan and mix with the fans and sample the atmosphere, and it was just it was unbelievable. It was a strange kind of feeling for me actually, because I was actually part of the squad for the first 3 or 4 games of the qualifying for Euro 2016, and unfortunately I wasn't playing for my club, so by the end I wasn't getting picked in the squad. So I could kind of see what was happening. I could see what was kind of developing, and even though I would have loved to have been there as a player, it was the next best thing, really. It was still like 4 or 5 weeks of my life, which were just unbelievable. And to see how it affected the Wales fans and how important it was for them to, be at a major tournament, what it kind of meant for them, it was just an unbelievable atmosphere to experience, really. So I'm a little bit gutted I'm not there this time. But as I say, the fans that are there, they really will kind of get behind the team and will do their very best to get this Welsh team kind of over the line. But it was, if they can do anything like what they did in 2016, these Welsh players, then obviously the nation will be really, really proud again. But I don't think there's too much expectation on the team, and that's what's really good about our country, really. We want the team to do well, but it's not unrealistic expectation, and we don't put added pressure on the players where we're still getting used to qualifying for major tournaments. So as a nation, we're just really happy to be there again, and hopefully the team, the lads can do something special.
Danny, I guess we should touch on the Turks as well, because they were a lot of people's dark horses heading into this tournament, and
they were mine as well.
Yeah, we've mine as well. We've egg on our face in some ways. Although if they can still mount a challenge and progress in the tournament, who knows? But Burak Yilmaz is a talent up front. He's getting on in years, but he certainly was an important player for Lille as they won the French league this season. Soyuncu, we all know from Leicester City, but they're a dangerous enough team. Granted, they weren't impressive at all against Italy, but you can't take the Turks for granted whatsoever this afternoon.
Yeah, let's not forget, Çalhanoğlu as well, who plays for Milan. Cengiz Ünder, who obviously was on loan at Leicester City. They've got some really, really good players. And I think for me, it was more tactically what killed them against Italy. They were really negative. You could see the game plan was, look, let's get out of here with a point. There was no interest really in attacking. It was just a big kind of rearguard action. Yilmaz there, you mentioned, who's had a great season at Lille, was really isolated. They found it really difficult to kind of get the ball into him and get the team up the pitch. But look, they've got some excellent players, and they've shown over the last kind of year or so they're capable of beating, the very best. So, Wales shouldn't read into that result or how Turkey played too much in that first game, because I think you'll see a very different Turkey going into this Wales game, because they know they need to come out and get a result. They know that Wales are probably not of the quality of that Italian side, so I'd expect them to be a lot more on the front foot, a lot more positive, looking to get their attacking players into the game a lot more than what we saw in the first game. And look, let's not write them off. You know, we've seen teams lose their first game and go deep in the tournament. We've seen Portugal in 2016 where they didn't win a group game and qualified and ended up winning the tournament. So, you know, it's not the be-all and end-all if you lose your first game, but Turkey will be well aware that this is a big game for them as well this afternoon, and it's almost more of a must-win for them. So Wales need to be really aware of that and expect a fast start from the Turks, and Wales will have to, you know, get through that first 15, 20 minutes. If they can do that and impose themselves then on the opposition, then I think it could make for a really kind of open, entertaining game of football.
I mean, the man Burak Yilmaz is going to be eye to eye up against is Danny Ward in the Welsh goal, and I feel like he should get some sort of a mention after his display against the Swiss. He was impressive, some big saves, and you know, Wayne Hennessy has been a bit of a stalwart in the Welsh goal over so many years, but Danny Ward fairly repaid the faith Rob Page has shown in him in picking him for this tournament. And you of all people, I mean, know the importance of having a solid goalkeeper behind you, but he's really been impressive. I know it's only one game into the tournament, but he's someone who I guess the Welsh defence can trust.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. You know, he was my man of the match in that Switzerland game, made a number of really important saves, and I'm really pleased for Danny, to be fair, because he's had to bide his time. You know, neither keeper really has been playing at club level. I think Wayne Hennessy picked up an injury earlier in the season, and that kind of gave Danny Ward the opportunity in a couple of international games to kind of stake a claim, and he did really well there. And you know, the two kind of warm-up games, or certainly the France game going into the Euros, he was outstanding again, and I think that's probably what made Robert Page's mind up. So, look, yeah, as a central defender, you know, you want that kind of solid kind of base, you know, behind you, because you know when you're playing against these top teams that you're not going to keep them totally quiet. Your goalkeeper's going to have to come in and make saves at critical points in games, and that's exactly what he's done. And you know, I think that's been the difference from the Euro 2016 kind of squad. Really, the squad kind of almost picked itself. The team and the system picked itself. But going into this tournament, there were a lot of question marks about team selection and style of play and system. And that was one of the question marks. You know, the goalkeeper, who was going to play. You know, would it be Wayne Hennessy? Would it be Danny Ward? Robert Page has gone with Danny Ward, and you know, so far he hasn't let the manager down. And you feel, you know, he could be busy again this afternoon. You know, when called upon, he's going to have to, you know, keep the team in the game by making good saves. So he looks like a keeper that's full of confidence at the minute, which is a little bit surprising, as I say, because you know, he hasn't played a lot of football for, you know, the last couple of seasons now. Really, he's been a kind of a bit part player, really. So to kind of come in and perform at that level with no kind of game time behind you, you know, shows what a good goalkeeper he is.
When you think back at your own career at a club level, Danny, you played in the Premier League, you played for West Ham, QPR, Crystal Palace, and your own Cardiff City. What stood out? What was your maybe your best time in your club career?
Good question. I think the period at Cardiff City was a really important period for me as a player. Initially kind of starting off at West Brom as a youth team player and breaking into the first team there, and then almost dropping 2-3 divisions just to get first team football. That was a real kind of important part in my development as a player, playing week in and week out and gaining a couple of promotions there. You know, those promotions kind of stand out, particularly the one at the Millennium Stadium where we beat QPR, which almost just felt like it was almost like a home game, really, with all the Cardiff City fans there playing in your home city. So I'd probably say the best part of my career, where I played my best football, would have been at West Ham, stepping up into the Premier League and trying to kind of prove myself that I could kind of play at that level. And certainly that first season there was probably the best season I've had as a player, where you know, you just really kind of feel on the top of your game. And we had a really good season as a team, and getting to an FA Cup final, that was a big moment for myself as well. Obviously, we didn't go on to win that, but just to be involved in an FA Cup final was something that you always kind of dreamed of as a kid and stuff. So I'd probably say, you know, that kind of period between Cardiff and West Ham were some of the standout moments for me. And probably towards the end, getting a promotion with Crystal Palace back to the Premier League was a moment which I didn't really think I was going to probably achieve, I suppose. Getting towards the back end of your career, I was, Palace not really fancied to get promotion that season. I was just going to Palace really to enjoy training and try and play some games, and hopefully be in a dressing room with a good group of lads. We managed to get a promotion there as well. So they're probably the highlights, really. Yeah, and obviously I can talk about playing for Wales and stuff like that. And so been some good moments. And
Damien Delaney, a good teammate of Palace.
Yeah, Damo. Yeah.
He's a regular here, Danny. He's a regular.
Is he?
OTB. Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
You know what? When he was playing, I never ever would have thought that he would have gone down the punditry media side. To be honest with you, he just didn't seem that kind of guy. He's one of them. I thought when he finishes playing, he'll just get his guitar out and he'll just be learning to play the guitar. You'll see him down the pub having a few drinks and stuff like that. But no, I mean, I got on really well with Damo. We spent a lot of time together, kind of off the pitch as well at Crystal Palace. Got to know him really well. And what he was able to do kind of back end of his career there was unbelievable. A similar situation to me where he came into Palace and, had been thinking about hanging up his boots because he was a bit disillusioned with the game, and just went there not really knowing what he was looking for. And, we ended up then having 4 or 5, I think it was, really good seasons and getting back in the Premier League and performing at a high level. And now he's taken a liking to the media side of things. Well, I have to say he speaks really well actually as well. So he's a bit of a natural of that as well. So but I've spoken to him for a while. So next time you see him, guys, if you could wish him my best, that would, I'd be really thankful, because he's a brilliant guy to be fair.
We'll have to get you both on together at some point, Danny.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
for a career retrospective. Come here, Danny. You've been great with your time. Can I just ask you before we go? The Christian Eriksen incident, I suppose, marked the whole first weekend in the Euros, and terrifying incident altogether. But thankfully, we saw the Instagram post from Christian yesterday and the statement. The thumbs up, and thankfully he's alive and well. But what was your reaction when you first saw that news coming through? I mean, it was a terrifying thing to watch.
Yeah, I was watching on the TV, guys, and it brought a tear to my eye straight away. You just knew it was serious. Obviously, the camera pictures probably stayed on the incident a little bit too long, so I think everybody could kind of see how kind of serious it was. And I really did fear for him. But I have to say, credit to the doctors, the paramedics, the referee, the players. I think the speed in which everyone kind of acted to get to him and give him that medical attention is the reason why he is still here. And just thankful that, he came out of it. He's recovering, and hopefully he can make a full recovery and we can see him back on the football pitch. But it was just a nasty, horrible thing to see. You just don't expect to see that, do you? When you see players go out there and perform, that's just not something that's in your mind. You don't expect anything like that to happen. It was something actually that happened to one of my teammates when I was actually at West Ham. The same thing happened where, he was playing in a League Cup game and just collapsed. And a similar thing was, had a cardiac arrest, his heart stopped, and he had to be brought back. And unfortunately for him, he wasn't then able to continue playing. He had to retire. But I'm sure, he was just thankful that he was, still alive, I suppose, and able still to live a kind of normal life. So yeah, it was horrible to see, but just great to see that Christian's kind of come through that. I think it was really difficult for the players then to play after that. I'm not sure about them then, finishing the game a couple of hours later. No surprises that Denmark lost that game after what happened to Christian, and I felt a little bit sorry for the players, but obviously great to see that he's okay and recovering well, and wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully we can see him back on the pitch soon, because he is an outstanding footballer.
Yeah, really does put it all into perspective, I think, the whole thing.
It certainly does, yeah.
Danny, listen, you've been great with your time. Fantastic insight into Wales there. Really, really great stuff, as always. And listen, best of luck to your boys this afternoon, and thanks a million for your time this morning.
Thanks, Danny.
Cheers, Shane. Cheers, John. Thank you so much. Take care.
Great stuff. Danny Gabbidon there, the former Wales international and Premier League icon, I guess, for some of those clubs, John, as well, West Ham. And
only player who would not have enjoyed the jarred goal in the 2006 FA Cup final.
Yeah, exactly. No, Danny's a great guy, and top pundit as well now, by the way. Before we let you go though as well, John, myself, Ger and Nathan have a predictions table running throughout the tournament. Of course, 3 games to predict for today. I'm glad to say I'm still top after Portugal and Germany came through yesterday. All 3 of us went for those 2 results yesterday. Russia-Finland today. I'm going with Russia, Ger for Finland, and Nathan going for a draw. Then for the Turkey-Wales game, myself and Nathan both going for the Turks. Ger is predicting a draw on that one, and then all 3 of us opting for Italy in the game against Switzerland later on this evening. So I'm at the top of the leaderboard still, John, 5 points. Ger on 3, Nathan on 2. How are you calling all 3 of these games? I guess we'll start with Russia-Finland.
I'm calling that as a draw.
Calling it as a draw. Right, Wales. Can they get the result they need against the Turks?
No, Turkey will win.
Turkey will win. See, a lot of people are opting for Turkey in this game, regardless of how poor they were against Italy. But I guess they need a big performance, Wales, as Danny has said. So I imagine you're going for Italy in the 3rd game.
I'm going for a draw in the Italy game. I'm going for a draw in the Italy game.
Big shout.
It is a big shout, but we have to be against the grain sometimes.
You'll get full credit if that ends up on a draw in tomorrow's Euro 2020 show. Don't worry, John. Listen, John, it's been great stuff this morning.
No problem,
Shane.
for the time. Thank you.
If you've missed any of the show, as always, you can catch up. Episode 5, I think it is now, of the Euro 2020 show. If you missed any of it, up very shortly in the OTB Sports app and on OTBsports.com, so you can watch it back as well on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/offtheball. We'll also be sure to have plenty of clips and content from the show posted at Off the Ball on Twitter and Instagram, and myself on Twitter as well, at ShaneHannon01. I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday morning from 11 a.m. as per usual. 3 more games for you tomorrow. Ukraine versus North Macedonia, Denmark against Belgium, and the Dutch against Austria. So same time, same place tomorrow morning. We'll speak to you then. Have a good one.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power's Save Our Game, a cane brace will bag 20k for Irish football. Gamble responsibly.